Hello, I'm Victoria, Victorious Wool, and I have a couple of patterns that use Afterthought heels, and currently it's the only way that I make heels in my socks. The first thing I do is mark, when I'm knitting the sock, I mark where I want the heel to be, and I'm doing this before I finish the toe because really I want the heel to be on my foot when I try it on to decide how long to make the foot before I make the toe at the end of the whole process. So I have marked not the exact row that I want to put the Afterthought heel in. This is the beginning of round for me. I don't use stitch markers when I knit socks because I feel like stitch markers push down into the knitting and kind of create a ladder on its own. So I usually count from where my tail is all the way down the sock, follow it along. I use a needle to follow very slowly along and find it. So I just tagged this as this is my beginning of round, and then I'm going to go, the spot I want to put my heel in is 2 rows up. And I put this stitch marker there because I don't want it to be in the way while I do this process, but I want to leave it there so that when I continue forward, I know where my beginning of round is. So I do the method where I pick up the row above and the row below, and then I, of the exact place I want to put the Afterthought heel, and then I cut. Since I want the Afterthought heel to be 2 up from where this is placed, it's really this one that I'm going to cut into. And I didn't put waste yarn in here, so I'm going to literally cut into my stitches, and I'll show you how to do that. But I'm not going to pick up the stitches from this row. I'm going to pick them up from the one below. So this is the very first row stitch of the row, and I'm going to pick up the right leg. And every stitch, I'm going to pick up the right leg. And I'm going to do 32 pickups because this is a 64 stitch sock, and you knit Afterthought heels on half the stitches. I am using a very long circular needle that is a size 0. And I knit my socks, this pair at least, with a size US 1. And I'm picking up with a smaller needle because it's so much easier to pick up stitches and put them on a needle when they are bigger than the needle you're using. But it's definitely worth getting. If you're going to do a lot of socks this way, it's definitely worth having. And I'll tell you why I'm doing it with a circular and not a double point in a minute, but I need to count here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 26, 28, and 30. Just 2 more. I could tell I was close. Okay. So that's half the stitches. And then I'm going to slide it off the needle and onto the cable. The reason I use a really long circular needle instead of double points, because I could slide a double point in this row below the one I'm going to cut. I could slide another one in the row above, and I have done that. It's really difficult to cut into a tiny little stitch when you've got these solid metal rods essentially above and below it. I discovered that wasn't easy, but someone else in some other video gave me this tip to do it on the cable, because the cable is, at least in this one, I think, yeah, a little bit smaller than the size 1 itself. So you want to rest these stitches while they're on here on something as small as possible, and so it's more flexible when you cut into it, and makes a big difference. But you can try both ways, but I'm sure you'll end up liking this way better. Now I'm not going to go 1 up, and I'm going to go 2 stitches up. So I'm going to not this one, but the one above it. And I'm going to pick up the right leg of every stitch. I'm still using the circular needle. I just pulled the tip around. This is how you would pick up. If you were going to use the magic loop for this heel also, you would do it with a long circular needle. what I'm going to end up doing is picking these up, cutting the row in between the pickups, and then using double pointed needles to do the heel. That's just kind of the combination method that feel most comfortable with. Is the least annoying, is to knit the socks on a 9-inch circular, you know, one of these little guys. Then I use a long circular needle to pick up the stitches here in the heel, and then I use double points to actually knit the heel. So I use all three, which is really interesting, but it's just all for small, subtle reasons that make the process enjoyable rather than frustrating. Things do get a little bit snug, especially if you've got a 9-inch circular sitting in there too. But usually I wouldn't do it this close to that needle maybe, but I really wanted to get the heel done today. And then I think maybe I need to pick up one more to match that one below, but I will count it too. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, and 30, 32. Great. So then I'm going to pull this so that both the cable is what's resting inside the sock. There we go. And then you look for one stitch in the middle here, of the row in between. See, there's a row on either cable, and then there's a row in between, and you've got one of those. Just one. You only need to really do one. I've got that, and then my scissors can really go away. And what I end up doing is using the tip of this circular needle here to start pulling the little end I've made. I start pulling it up and out. It's really not that scary. I mean, you secured both sides pretty darn secure, considering they're sitting on this cable nice and tightly. So there's no worry about that. You just got to make sure you cut the right one. And you only need to cut it once. It's not like even steeking where you are cutting down the whole front of something, you know. So I don't think it's really scary. And then this part is a bit slow. You're pulling out this row, and it's leaving live stitches that are ready to be turned into a heel. You go all the way. I'm not going to pull out every single one of these stitches from this middle row I've cut. I'm going to leave 2 on the end here unraveled. So I'm going to unravel this whole thing up to here. And I'm going to leave those 2. And then I'm going to go back over here. And I'm going to unravel this entire other side and leave 2 over here. And that means that when I put the double pointed needles in to do the heel, it's closed on the side because the row that I cut out still exists for just those 2 stitches on either side. And so that helps keep there from being much of a heel gap. I think there still can be, and I still usually go back and try to close it up as much as I can at the end. but it's much better than if you were to put a line of waste yarn in. There is always a gap and you have to close it. Am I there yet? Do I have 2 or is there 3? There's 3, so I'm going to go ahead and do that one out. And now I have 1 more leg. Okay. Now I have 2 stitches, 1 and 2, that are going to stay in. This will get tucked in inside the sock, and I'll weave it in at the end. And now I'm going to start pulling this side. Okay, now I have just 2. Yep. Okay, now we have our hole. There's your heel gap. So I need to grab my double pointed needles, and then I usually, for my Afterthought heels, I'll put 1 double pointed needle here, and then I'll put 2 double pointed needles there. And this is the position. When I do the decreases now, I'll decrease here, 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 and then here. And nothing happens in between there. Yeah, so if you're following my Cherry Swanky sock pattern or my Snowy Dreams pattern or probably any future pattern I do with Afterthought heel, this is the way you want your needles to be positioned when you start knitting it. And this is exactly the same position I use for the toe. I also have, usually this would be the underside of the toe, I think. I just did one last night. But you want your beginning of round on the bottom right, and then you would decrease there and there, there and there, and you make your toe. Okay, hopefully that helps.